I'd like to call this video The End of the Apocalypse. And I've alluded to this in several videos of the past, and my thoughts on the apocalypse and the end of the world and all that stuff have changed drastically over the years. And it turns out a lot of them, well, not really even a lot of them, but in general, all of our ideas come from this island, Patmos, where John of Patmos supposedly had his experience of witnessing or being taught or being shown or being guided to or a vision of the apocalypse and all these symbols that we've come to know. And so I have a different theory altogether, and I've thought about this for a long time, and this kind of revelation has come somewhat recently as I've seen the way things kind of are. And so I just like to go in, so I'm just going to kind of show you actually some different artworks based on this guy, Alfred Rethel, and he's an incredible artist. He's got around the 1500s, he did an amazing series called The Apocalypse, and they're just incredibly detailed artworks. I'm going to show you all 23 of the panels, and I'll just kind of talk about all my different thoughts about what I'm seeing and what I've come to see and what I've come to really theorize about these apocalypse stories, and especially what I propose, and that's what I'd like to start with. And so just kind of enjoy the artwork, listen, check out stuff, think about whatever. I'll go back and forth. But my theory that I'd like to propose is the end of the apocalypse. I say in the future, we do not teach children or anyone of any age that the apocalypse is even a possibility. And I say this because what I've come to think about the apocalypse and the end of the world and all this bull is that it really is just that, a bunch of bull. And it's a bunch of fear. It may have been the first fear campaign. And what if the story of Noah, the deluge, was the first story of control? Like, who's to say that there weren't thousands, millions of beautiful stories which relate to all the artwork, all the architecture, all the beauty we see with the angels, all these amazing things. There were probably so many beautiful stories. And the ones that get remembered are the kind of catastrophic ones. And the way that they do things now, and when you know about the people that are kind of leading the way, sadly, you see that they, they use a lot of fear of comets. There's the end of the world with plagues. There's the end of the world with missiles, nukes. End of the world with drought, famine, hurricanes, global warming, flooded ice caps, you name it. There's an end of the world theory or possibility. And what if Noah in the flood was the first one? And think about what you can do with that. With a story like that, you can control the population. With a story of an apocalypse like this, demons, all these different things, like their world was magical. Back then, we know that again from the artwork. So to propose different ideas of seven-headed beasts, 10 horns, all these different things, beings coming, it was probably a possibility, and it was probably something that people were terrified of at that point. And who's to say that they didn't burn all the books that weren't kind of showing these things? And there's some light usually in them, but this vision, if this was from John of Patmos or St. John of whenever, that it was supposedly written in Revelations and whatnot. If this is by them, then what is this? Is this that was he ingesting mushrooms? Was he on that island? Part of the story that I read somewhere was that he defied a Roman emperor by being threatened. He was punished, and they dipped him in hot oil or something, and he came out unscathed. And people were like, what? And then they joined they continued to join Christianity and whatnot. I have no idea. I don't claim to know, but I read that in one of the things. I have no idea what the truth is about all this stuff. But, then he was exiled to Patmos, where he supposedly came up with these things. A lot of these, not some of these. Some of these are obviously biblical, but they all relate to his version of the apocalypse. And there's 23 plates, and this artwork's amazing. And it's just holding back the winds. It's so good. The angels, the descriptions, the visions are very comprehensive. And so they could be really, truly divine revelations, or they could be a way for the church at one point to dominate over everybody. Because the fear of the end of the world, just thinking that it's possible for the world to end, for all life to cease, just thinking that that is a possibility does incredible detriment to the psychology of, I think, every single one of us. And the fact that they put it in Disney movies, they put it in Nickelodeon stories, SpongeBob 2 was about the end of the world, Zoolander 2, like so many different movies. It's everywhere. It's become a cultural just thing, like a hot topic. But why? Why not the unification of the world, like the moment of universal harmony, a moment of universal heart and love? Like, why isn't that treated with the same kind of reverence and popularity as stories like Noah's flood, devastating, or just all these end of the world things? You look on Netflix and you can easily look up who can control the topics that come out of there, but I'm just gonna say I'm glad I don't support them at all anymore. I did for like the first year they came out, Netflix, but then after that, yikes. But all the stories, so many movies are about the end of the world, all this stuff, like, what? There's no movies. I've always wanted to see one because I love movies, but there's no movies that show a full like very rarely show a full human unification with a total triumph over the subjects of evil and good winning and just everybody uniting in an incredible way. And a lot of these thoughts are coming not only because it's Easter, Good Friday, everything, but it's also, I've used this quarantine time to come around and finish my painting or my ink drawing of Judgment, which is my take on the moment that good triumphs over evil. And I'll show you a clip at the end, but it's got me thinking of I had the final left corner, which was the ultimate pretty much vision of the artwork, and it had eluded me for the whole time for about 2-3 years now. And I've been trying to think, and I've been trying to separate my mind from the revelations that I know of in these books that are from a specific source at some point, whatever it is, whether it's divine or whether it's total like a hallucination, or whether it's a torture like story and then he wrote it. You know, the guy might have just been on that island exiled and been like, I'm going to create something masterful, I'm going to create something crazy, I'm upset at the world, boom, and then maybe they utilize it for something. I have no idea. I don't claim to know either. But the way that these apocalypse stories are used, it is just a constant way to put the fear into people. And that fear, I don't feel needs to be there in the future. Like, that is, this might have been one story out of thousands. And I bet you there were a lot of stories that were artistically perfect back in the early centuries that showed the beauty, showed the uniting of everyone, showed everyone in embracing like what that hidden pathway is for humanity that leads us to something absolutely perfect, something where every single person is achieving full potential, full resonance, full harmony, and we are all getting along, and we're just animals. Everything is just united in a beautiful way. I believe that's possible. And what are those stories? I think even I learned of the apocalypse when I was very young, because I remember hearing about 2012, and I had older cousins that were into this kind of stuff, and I'd heard about it from I had an older sister, and she had a lot of friends, and just I talked to older people when I was young because I was always trying to learn, and I had heard about the apocalypse as a subject, and I was blown away, and I ended up inevitably in 8th grade and 9th grade I wrote 2 books that I'll maybe show at some point, but or share. But they were both apocalyptic, kind of, to an extent, and the music I listened to, a lot of that was apocalyptic, and I don't feel like it needs to be the way. I feel like that's an old path that needs to kind of be forgotten. And like, who are we judging? Who are we all fearing, or why are we all fearing something that just may be just one of the infinite potentials in the world? Like, the world could unite beautifully. The world could unite under slush, love for slush. Anything is possible. That was just something totally random, but like, that's the point. Is there are infinite possibilities, infinite stories to tell. Why do we always have to think or be bombarded with ones that are earth-shattering, ones that devastate an entire population, ones that end the world, when we're still here after how many thousands or millions or billions of years. Life is still here. So why do we have to think about this? Why does it have to be a pop theme? I propose that it ends. End the apocalypse thought, end the craziness. Like, we don't need to think like this. We need to think about how we can unite things. Fear, we know, gets people to be controlled. We've seen that amazingly, astoundingly in the past couple weeks. The way people are changing their entire, or pleased to change their entire existence because of a little bit of fear. And so that is, the apocalypse story, that is 100% what it does. It creates a fear in entire populations, in God-fearing populations, that, this moment of time might come in your lifetime. And, our grandparents, it didn't happen to, and theirs, it didn't happen to, and, it just doesn't seem, it seems over-glorified, and it seems like something I think we should, we shouldn't treat it and bombard young children with this thought. It should just be out of that, I don't know, you know what I mean, I hope, out there. And I think there just needs to be more stories of uniting, and I am willing to believe, and let my imagination go, and say that, if they were creating artworks like this, look at all these, like the buildings, everything, the architecture, the people, everything's perfect, everything's unique, everything's detailed, everything's jeweled and just amazing, the angels, the wings, everything's so good. And if this inspired this kind of artwork, and he was inspired by the engravers before him, I can only imagine what a lot of the stories that just didn't make it through the test of time were detailing and were about. Because those that were burning books and destroying information and rewriting history did not want those ones to survive. But somehow Noah, the flood, these stories have survived. And they're like the only ones that end up surviving, and they're the most tragic, and they're the ones that always kind of keep people thinking. Like, whether you're a small kid, the story about Noah, and you hear, boom, the world had ended at one point, everyone was wiped out. Why make people think that way? It seems like the wrong way to educate, because I know from experience, definitely, that it was something I wish I didn't know about. Could have been a lot happier not knowing about it. I guess I'm glad. You got to know kind of the enemy, or just the different potentials. But I feel it's unnecessary to teach. But it does make for some great art. But there are a lot of other things that definitely do, like these ones. I hope you guys are reading the titles as well as with the artwork, because they just are so fitting. This artist is incredible. I love discovering old artists from this time. He was inspired by Durer and a few others that were just masters. The dragon with 2 horns and 7 heads. And just look at it. This stuff is just awesome. And now, what is that? Did this guy see these visions? The guy who wrote this? It's all coming from one person. It's one author, supposedly, or that channeled this at some point. It made it into Revelations, and it's astounding. I wonder. A lot of people actually, they're saying now, are having apocalyptic dreams. I've had apocalyptic dreams my whole life in some way, and again, it's a psychological byproduct of just knowing that this exists. And I wish, it's as a father now, it's something that I will never teach her and try to keep her from, because I want to see how a beautiful soul and spirit can grow and learn everything while this isn't a fear looming over them. I used to fear people breaking in, or everything. As a kid, you have a lot of fears. I remember that. I'm remembering a lot of things of when I was growing up, and the apocalypse is a big part of it. And it affected, December 21st, I never believed it was the end of the world. I actually did it first when I was young, thinking that maybe something was coming, and wow, I have to learn as much as I can in order to prepare for this. And then as time went on, I began to see, wow, I think it's something beautiful. If it is a celestial alignment, it's something beautiful. If it is something marked by the ancients, it's going to be something beautiful. And that's just kind of been the way it is. I've tried to tune it out and let the good overcome the potential for just absolute disaster. And that's what we need to give. Like a lot of people, people have entered panic mode. And I heard David Knight. I do love listening to David Knight, and I was thinking this in myself. He just put it in beautiful terms, but that people shouldn't be panicking about just what someone says. And then he's like, like even when the bombs start to drop, if I don't think they're going to happen, I pray that never happens. But even in a situation like that, you shouldn't be panicking. That's the time to step it up. Even in the end of the world, in the apocalypse, if it were to happen, which I don't think it's possible. I pray it's not, but I don't think it is. And I think if I was raised to never know what that is, I would laugh at the potential that the world could end, because it would seem absurd, preposterous. It's just something, if my young mind hadn't been molded to it, I would have had a better outlook on it. The wine press of the wrath of God. I wonder what that tastes like. Don't think I would really want it, but look at that art. And I love how in the art of this time, in the art of the 1500s, the buildings are phenomenal. They are just everywhere, and all that artwork, all that Renaissance artwork, you see these beautiful, just amazing buildings that we just don't put up anymore. We don't do it even come close. We don't care to create buildings of that strength and that quality and that level of detail and craftsmanship. We don't even come close to it, but it's in all the artworks, and it's just an amazing time. And this is intense. Death the Strangler by Alfred Rethel. Oh yeah. Oh my God, I apologize. The other artist was not that. It was Jean Duvet that whole time. I'll go back and correct that. But this guy was just some other art that was another engraver that I thought was very interesting. And he drew this drawing during the epidemic cholera, I believe, in 1831, and people were terrified of it. And it kind of is, I guess, fitting to nowadays, but people were so terrified of this image because I think of after surviving through that, what happened during that, whatever happened, and then just this really affected them. And so he created a word, Death as a Friend, showing the more lighter, peaceful side of death, and more somber and beautiful. He felt the need to create that after he received such intense kind of scrutiny for the power of the other one. And that's just art. And people, there's a lot of talk now about essential and non-essential, and I say we're all essential. Every single one of us plays a part in this miracle, and a unique and individual amazing part. The artist, everyone, the lawnmower, the dentist, just everyone, every single person, the people I don't know, the jobs I have no idea about. Everyone plays a part. We're all essential. Remember that. I might do a video on it. But this is actually part of, it's only a beginning clip of this judgment drawing that I'm working on again during this time. It's absolutely fitting. This drawing's taken me about 3 years, and there's, to be honest, no better time that it probably could have ever been finished until now. And I've been going on and off between other projects, and so now I've gotten to the upper left corner, which is basically the triumph of the artwork, and it's the moment that good wins over evil, and it's coming. And I'm very glad to be drawing kind of during the battle. It's pretty intense. Judgment is just a popular theme, a powerful theme, and I hope to create something eternal that people love forever. And I hope we all do. Everybody, just discover your true potential. Keep it going. Don't believe in the apocalypse. We are much better than that. We will create a universal moment of harmony instead. Bless you all.